She walked into a building on the night of October 10, 2013. That moment became the final confirmed sighting of her alive. Within hours, her entire world went quiet. Calls stopped. Messages ended. Every trace of her daily life suddenly froze in time. At first, it looked like a mystery with nothing to follow. But silence can leave clues. And when investigators studied the quiet she left behind, every piece of it began leading toward the same place, the same person. Welcome to Cold Case Chronicle, the channel where no case stays forgotten. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss an investigation. Drop a comment below telling us which case brought you here. And if you want to support the work, a like goes a long way. Now let's get into it. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. October 2013. Kelly Dwyer was 27 years old, a nanny, a part-time athletic wear saleswoman, and by every account from the people who knew her, someone who filled a room the moment she stepped into it. She had moved to Milwaukee in 2008, built a life there, and found what her friends described as her tribe, a community of coworkers, yoga classmates, and regulars at the local spots she loved. She had just celebrated her birthday. She told a friend something big was about to happen, that she could feel it. On the night of October 10th, Kelly went out with a man named Chris Sacco, someone she had been spending time with for about a year after being introduced through a mutual friend. The two of them went to a bar called Alia, a cozy neighborhood spot not far from Sacco's apartment on the east side. They shared pizza from a nearby place called Ian's with a group of people sitting outside on a long communal bench. Shortly after 2 in the morning, Kelly and Sacco left the bar together. Surveillance footage inside his building captured them walking, and Kelly animated, gesturing with her hands as she rounded the corner to the elevator. It was the last time anyone outside that apartment would see her alive. Friday, October 11th. Saturday, October 12th. No word from Kelly. By the time she failed to show up for her shift on October 14th, her coworkers were already alarmed. Kelly was someone who stayed connected, always on her phone, always posting, always responding. A dead cell phone and a silent social media feed were not normal. They were a warning. Assistant District Attorney Sarah Hill, who would eventually lead the prosecution in this case, described the situation plainly. Missing person flyers spread through Milwaukee almost immediately. The community responded with urgency. Volunteers joined the search, and law enforcement began tracing back every step Kelly had taken in her final known hours. Detective Tammy Tremel McLean arrived at Sacco's apartment building on October 14th, 3 days after Kelly was last seen. She reviewed the building's surveillance system, which included 28 cameras throughout the structure. Kelly walked in. Kelly never walked out. Not on a single frame. In when Tremel McLean sat down with Chris Sacco in his 18th floor apartment, he was cooperative, almost disarmingly so. He told police that he and Kelly had used cocaine that night, had drinks, and eventually had sex before both falling asleep on opposite ends of his couch. He said Kelly left around 9 the following morning, and that he heard the front door close behind her. Then a text message arrived from one of the other investigators stationed downstairs, watching the surveillance footage in real time. Because police had already learned drugs were present in the apartment, they obtained a search warrant. Inside, they found cocaine, marijuana, prescription painkillers, and smoking pipes. Sacco was arrested on drug possession charges. But during processing, investigators gained access to his phone, and what they found there fundamentally changed the nature of the investigation. A video recorded approximately 3 weeks before Kelly went missing showed the two of them together in a deeply troubling context. Kelly appeared to be struggling to breathe. There were also photographs on the device that showed her appearing to be unconscious on Sacco's bed. Police could not immediately connect those images to her disappearance, but they could no longer treat this as a simple missing persons case. During the apartment search, officers noticed something in the bathroom. The shower curtain hooks were bent, and fragments of the curtain itself were torn away. The curtain was gone. That detail prompted investigators to bring in a cadaver detection dog named Molly. Molly worked through the building methodically. She alerted outside the apartment door. She alerted on the level of the parking garage where Sacco kept his vehicle. She alerted the dumpster door on the 18th floor. Inside the apartment, Molly moved through the hallway, into the guest bathroom, into the master bedroom, and then climbed onto Chris Sacco's bed. She sniffed with intensity, then gave her formal trained alert for the presence of human remains. Investigators now believed Kelly was dead. and they believed the final moments of her life had taken place in that apartment. Sacco's girlfriend of more than 3 years, a woman named Megan, who had no knowledge of his relationship with Kelly, was brought in to help investigators identify what was missing from the apartment. The shower curtain, a small bathroom rug, matching decorative towels, all gone. And one more thing, a large padded travel golf bag, silver in color, roughly 2 to 2.5 feet wide, that had been sitting in front of the television for weeks. It was the kind of bag golfers use to protect clubs during transport, heavily padded, fully enclosed, large enough to hold considerably more than equipment. There was no footage of Sacco carrying the bag out of his apartment, but the building's elevator had no camera. A person could move between floors completely undetected. Molly had also alerted Sacco's car, the trunk, the door handle, and the interior. At 10:08 in the morning, he was captured on the parking garage camera, standing at the driver's side of his vehicle. Kelly's phone went dead at the same moment. 16 minutes later, he was back at his trunk. Investigators noted what appeared to be a silver object inside the vehicle. Over the next 8 hours, he made multiple trips loading items into the car. At 6:16 that evening, he left the building and drove to his mother's home, where he dropped off what he described as summer sports equipment, including golf clubs. Then he was due at his girlfriend's house for dinner. He arrived nearly 90 minutes late. She later told investigators he was visibly unsettled, fidgeting with his phone, unable to sleep, sweating through the sheets so severely she had to change them in the middle of the night. Saturday, October 12th. One day after Kelly was last seen, Chris Sacco drove 80 miles from Milwaukee toward Madison, Wisconsin, to a small specialty cheese shop called the Mouse House. He purchased a half-pound wedge of cheese, which he later said was intended as a gift for his girlfriend's parents. Investigators did not believe that was the reason for the trip. After stopping at the Mouse House at 9:55 in the morning, Sacco next appeared on record at a Sports Authority store where he purchased a brand new pair of sneakers using his credit card at 12:11 in the afternoon. The distance between the two locations was 54 miles, a drive that should have taken under 50 minutes. Instead, 90 minutes were unaccounted for. Investigators believe that gap is when Kelly's body was disposed of somewhere in the rural farmland between Madison and Milwaukee. The new shoes, they theorized, were meant to replace a pair that may have been compromised during the disposal. Without a body, prosecutors could not bring a homicide charge. But between the drug evidence and what had been found on Sacco's external hard drive, which contained child pornography he claimed had belonged to a former employer, law enforcement had enough to pursue criminal charges. In November 2014, Sacco stood trial on the child pornography counts. He was convicted on all but one charge. The following month, he pleaded guilty to the drug offenses as well, receiving a combined sentence of 19 years. The question of what happened to Kelly Dwyer, however, remained open. A year and a half after Kelly vanished, a man out walking in rural Wisconsin noticed something catching the light among the overgrowth off a country road roughly 45 miles west of Milwaukee, about 6 miles from Interstate 94. It was a human skull. 6 days later, dental records confirmed the remains belonged to Kelly Dwyer. The cause of death could not be determined from the skeleton alone. No shower curtain, no towel, no clothing, and no travel golf bag were found at the scene. But the position of the skeleton told its own story. Her feet and legs were folded over, one leg severely contorted. Her left arm was twisted behind her back. It took 2 more years of investigative work after Kelly's remains were found before the state of Wisconsin formally charged Chris Sacco with her death. A further year and a half passed before the case reached trial. The charge was first-degree reckless homicide, not premeditated murder. Prosecutors argued that Sacco had engaged in reckless sexual conduct that caused Kelly's death, and that he had then methodically concealed what happened. The defense pushed back on every pillar of the state's case. There was no DNA evidence, no eyewitnesses. The cadaver dog alert had not been filmed. Some of the surveillance footage the defense wanted to examine had not been preserved. And the defense presented a witness who claimed to have seen Kelly in a car with another person after she was reported missing, a sighting the prosecution maintained was a case of mistaken identity. The defense also argued the video on Sacco's phone depicted a consensual act between 2 adults. The jury deliberated for 3.5 hours. Chris Sacco received a sentence of 31 years, to be served consecutively on top of the 19 he was already serving. He would be in his 80s before becoming eligible for release. Kelly Dwyer set out one October night to have a drink and share some pizza with someone she had grown to care about. She was 27 years old. She had just had a birthday. She believed something meaningful was on the horizon. 5 years passed between the night she disappeared and the night a jury delivered its verdict. For her family, her friends, and the coworkers who sounded the first alarm, justice came, but it came late, and it came without the ability to fully explain every detail of what took place. What it did confirm is something the people who loved Kelly already knew, that her absence was not an accident of fate. It was the consequence of one person's choices, and it left a gap in Milwaukee's east side that no verdict can fill. That's the story of Kelly Dwyer, a case that took 5 years to reach a courtroom, and more than a year and a half just to locate her remains. If this investigation moved you, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people. Subscribe to Cold Case Chronicle if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the case. Was justice truly served? We want to hear from you. Until the next one, stay curious, stay informed.